Red vs. Blue Season 16 Episode 2 Incendiary Incidents has officially released. So let me break it down for you. So Grif has come to learn what is known as an incendiary incident, the initial thing that begins something even bigger, the thing that starts the fire. If you can avoid what causes the fire, then you can avoid the fire altogether. And that's what Grif is trying to do. When Jensen brought up that things were happening on Chorus, Grif changed the subject. When he received an encrypted message from Locus, he crashed the plane. My question here is, at what point is something not an incendiary incident? Because the thought of crashing their plane to me seems like the biggest incendiary incident Grif could have made. The weirdest thing as of now to me seems to be Grif. Yes, he still wants to be lazy and he's still figuring out all new and improved ways to do that. But by the looks of it, it seems that Grif's character, for whatever reason, is under the presumption that when a scenario presents itself, everyone is going to accumulatively agree that they need to involve themselves into it. For most of the series, the Reds have done pretty much nothing. Most of the time, they are directly dragged into scenarios they must deal with. But rarely, if ever, do they choose to involve themselves. Season 8, off the top of my head, is one of the few times they've chose to actively help. So to me, it seems weird that Grif thinks that everyone would jump on the opportunity of hijinks. Sister really seems to be the only one down for that. Grif so far seems to be following a very similar path that he did in Season 15. An incendiary incident happened and everyone jumped on a journey, but Grif wanted no part of it. We all know how that turned out. He got lonely. It ended up not really being the fact that he didn't want any sort of journey, more so Grif wanted to be around his friends and not be lonely. I'm not saying that Grif is all about doing work because of a single season, but so far it's a fairly similar path to what happened last season. The difference between last season and this season so far is that Church was the one that was at stake. They all had history and jumped on the opportunity to rescue someone that had previously saved them. So if either Chorus or Locus have some sort of dire goal that the series is being so ambiguous about, if I'm wagering a guess right here, right now, I'm willing to bet that these things that Locus and Chorus have going on aren't important whatsoever. They're just gonna be comedic outlets. Like the interesting things that were happening on Chorus is going to be like them getting wine bars and something equally as ridiculous with Locus. If that's not the case and there are very dangerous things happening with both of them, then Joe has a bad habit of repeating his storytelling. Picking Grif for a second time not wanting to go on a grandiose quest, having a message from a character that they have history with that they need to help. Just because you surround the story this time in time traveling and gods doesn't make the structure in which the story is being told change. And I don't believe Joe would repeat the same formula twice back to back. And that's why I think it's a punchline that will happen. Like if Grif just listened to Locus and not crashed a Pelican, and just listened to what was happening on Chorus, none of this would have happened. But now that I think about it, if it is a punchline to a joke, then he's repeating a similar setup and execution to what he did with Spencer Parkinson. Introduce a very in-your-face question mark that is so obvious that everyone thinks about, only to have it be a punchline to a joke. Either way, I feel as though Joe is repeating something that he did last season, and I don't know which one. But I am leaning more towards it being a joke. So there's my prediction until otherwise disproven. Also, Lopez is back. Wasn't in the last episode and didn't have a body last time we saw him. So plot happened, I guess. Anyway, Caboose ends up finding a glowing lake which he brings everyone to, and out from it emerges Donut. He is from the future and the past and all walks of time and dimensions. As we later learn in the episode, Donut had traveled so far back in time that he met God, the God, and he chose Donut as well as the rest of everyone to be his holy soldiers. Grif once again attempts to defuse the incendiary incident, and it works. Everyone just writes it off as a joke, and they continue on with their pizza quest. They all end up making it to Sammy Raffaello's only to see that the entire place is destroyed. They come across the cop whose purpose in this episode I question. Why bother putting this nobody into the story? He doesn't serve any purpose and he practically said, "No one knows what happened here," and then he left. I don't recall any character to my knowledge who has served such little purpose in every sense of the term. Usually these types of characters will progress the plot forward, explain something that we didn't know, be a guard protecting the place, acting as an obstacle, even simply being fodder for the characters to fight straight through. But this guy, just why? I didn't find him entertaining, I didn't think that his jokes were funny, and it all just felt so unearned. Like a completely random guy can't just show up out of nowhere and crack jokes for the sake of we need comedy. Like, imagine how this scene would have played out if the guy weren't in the episode. They'd show up, be like, what happened? No one would know, and we'd have gotten the exact same results, just excluding a completely unnecessary character. So, sorry Jeremy with your Patrick Warburton impression, your character was pointless. But let's move on with the episode. We are then introduced to Kali Rama the Undying, Daughter of Time, Queen of the Cosmic Powers, Mother to the Face, whatever the fuck that means, Goddess of Death, War, Annihilation. Probably also goes by 500 other titles. She ends up finding Donut as well as the rest of the Reds and Blues and tries to kill them. However, Donut is capable of fending her off long enough for pairs to escape through different time holes. Caboose and Lopez, Tucker and Sister, Doc Grif and Seto Haggins, and Sarge and Simmons. As Donut described, to save the future, they must fix the past. And the episode ends there. Now, I feel as though there's a lot of things to talk about. First, let's talk about Kali Rama. I dig that we're getting an actual female antagonist. There hasn't been one of those since that one that Maine killed that fell into the water. Aside from her, there weren't any real female antagonists. Texas was a bitch, but she wasn't the bad guy. Fans may not like South, but everyone in Project Freelancer was a victim to the director's experiments. So I like now we've gotten a female antagonist who is definitely an alien. She called Donut a dirty shizno. Biggest telltale sign of an alien right there. Now, aside from everything, something that makes me curious is why did she call Donut a trickster? Donut is a lot of things, but trickster? That's so un-Donut-like. So, to me, one of two things can be. Either within the infinite time he was alone, he became a trickster-type god, or, and I'm leaning more towards this one, it's not Donut, but rather a trickster god trying to manipulate the Reds and the Blues. I don't know which one it is because I would like to believe that Simmons' test of Donut's innuendos were true, but as of now, I'm not fully trusting Donut. As for the whole Donut and Kali Rama bit as a whole, I don't even know what to say. I don't know what I can say. It all seems so over the top that logic can't be used to figure out what is happening. The most perfect comparison I believe I can make in this scenario is to Lost. Red vs. Blue has actually achieved the same level of too weird for the average viewer that Lost did. Coincidentally, the moment Lost got a bit too weird was in and around the time that time travel was introduced. So it's uncanny that a show that has made so many Lost references has reached the same weird level as that show by doing the exact same thing. For the average viewer, they seem to be out. Should have ended 2 to 5 years ago type people. It's like the show said, we've already got an established audience, the show's not growing past this point, let's just do whatever. So until more things get established, I feel as though I can't really comment on Donut, Kali Rama, and that whole thing because, what? In terms of time travel, I've seen a lot of people in the comments saying things like, oh, they can save York, they can save Church, all these other established in-universe things. And in terms of those ideas, I'm not about them. I feel as though it would be insulting to the memories of these characters to bring them back from the dead because the audience misses them. It would also completely go against the end of season 15 when Caboose didn't save Church. Some things you've just gotta move on from. And if they bring back anyone, anything that was established would get completely ruined in more ways than one. So I don't expect anyone that we once saw to come back forever. The dead should stay dead. I'm not saying that they can't interact with the past characters, but saving them should be out of the question. Also on another time travel note, one of two things always happens with time travel. So Donut said to save the future you must fix the past. However, when you deal with time travel, either you can go back and change past events and shape the future a la Back to the Future, or you only end up being the cause for everything that happened. Very similar to what happened to Church when he was in the simulation that Gamma did. He was never capable of stopping anything, he was the sole reason these events kept playing out. So as established, it wasn't a thing that actually happened, so it's up in the air how it would work again. I am leaning more towards them being the cause for everything. I think that because of this episode. They arrived at Sammy Raffaello's and everything was already blown up and destroyed and no one knew what happened. So they go back in time and I believe Kali Rama's arrival to them showing up is what caused the place to look like that. So the Reds and Blues had already been following the trail of what a previous version of themselves did. So if they were the cause of the destruction, then what really could be done? Anything they may do, nothing's going to happen. I don't believe they'll enter a future where York is alive and he and Carolina had gotten together. I do believe by the end of everything, it's all going to be the same, aside from then Kalirama will probably be dead. So whether or not they can actually change anything is something I'll be keeping an eye on. So it seems that each episode will be following the adventures of one of the pairs and whatever hijinks each of them gets into. So that is going to do it for this video. Be sure to like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you're interested in more content like this, consider becoming a sponsor over on Patreon. It's only $3 a month, you get all the content early, and it really does help out the channel. Be sure to follow me on all social medias, and I'll see you in the next video.